Welcome to Trevecca's AuthorTalk, sponsored by Wagner Library. Today we have Carissa Knox-Sorrell, who's a poet, a writer, and an ESL educator, and I'm reading from her bio on our webpage. She's the author of Evening Body, which is what she's going to be talking about tonight, a poetry chapbook published by Finishing Line Press. And her poems and essays are also available in a variety of literary journals, including Flycatcher, Cactus Heart, San Pedro River Review, St. Catherine Review, Relief Journal, and Gravel Mag. She earned her MFA in creative writing at Murray State University in 2010. Additionally, Carissa earned her teaching degree from Trevecca and has 15 years of experience in public education, 13 of which have been in the ESL field. After 11 years of teaching in grades K-5 and 9-12, she moved into an instructional coaching position and currently works with teachers of English learners, although I understand you're going back in the classroom in the fall. You're going to be back in the classroom. She has a Master's of Education with a focus in teaching English to non-English language background learners from Tennessee State University, which she earned in 2003. She was raised as a preacher's kid and a missionary kid and partially grew up in Bangkok, Thailand. Lives in Nashville, Tennessee with her husband Stephen and their 2 children. Welcome, Carissa. We are excited to hear about your work.
Thank you guys so much for being here. This really means a lot. I pretty much know all of you, and I really, really appreciate your support. So it's Poetry Month. It's National Poetry Month. And so perfect timing for me to come read some poetry. So I'm going to talk a little and read a little. And then they kind of wanted me to talk about like the publication process. So we don't have like a ton of, in case there are any college students kind of looking toward that. So there's not a ton of college students here. But if you guys want to hear about that, I'll talk about that at the end, like the nuts and bolts. And I'll take any questions you might have about poetry or publishing or whatever, anything you want to ask. And then I do have books for sale, or if you've already bought my book, I will be happy to sign it for you. So thank you so much. I'm going to try not to get emotional, but I really, really appreciate your support. A lot of people don't care about poetry, but I hope I can make you care about it a little more, but I know that you're here because you care about me, so thank you. So I want to start by actually reading a poem by another poet. It's a poet named Gregory Orr, and it's from a book called Concerning the Book That is the Body of the Beloved, or the Beloved. And I just like to kind of nod to other poets that have come before me or that have inspired me. We don't live in a vacuum, and we're all inspired by other things. So I'm going to read a couple of short poems by him and talk about them a little bit to start. The beloved is dead, limbs and all the body's miraculous parts scattered across Egypt, stained with dark mud. We must find them, gather them together, bring them into a single place as an anthologist might collect all the poems that matter into a single book, a book which is the body of the beloved, which is the world. So this poet really starts off with this idea of the body and this idea of, immediately something is dead. The beloved is dead. We're not sure what the beloved is. But he immediately starts off with kind of this grim idea of the body, of death, and almost kind of gory. Limbs are scattered across Egypt. But bodies are kind of scary sometimes. We get diseases, we get illnesses, we might be in car accidents, we might have scars. There's still no cure for the common cold. So sometimes our bodies do things we don't expect, and that things that we can't control. And so sometimes they are kind of grim and scary. But then in the second part, the poet is talking about finding all of this and bringing them together, gathering them together, all the poems that matter into a book, which is the body of the beloved. So we kind of go from this idea of scatteredness and brokenness to this idea of wholeness. And that if we bring this body back and we gather these parts again, there's going to be something meaningful there. And, I've read this book a couple times. It's very, there's a lot of imagery that could be interpreted many different ways. So I can't say for sure what exactly the body of the beloved is. I think you could read it and you might get a different idea than me. But, to me, I connect it to the image of Christ and the resurrection, the dead body of Jesus and then his resurrection. So there's a connection there. He talks about this book, which is the body of the beloved, which is the world. So thinking about, could a book be a body? Could a book be a collection of moving parts that somehow work together that are beautiful and that mean something? Could the world be this body? Is the body of the world something that we're in, and we're the cells in it, we're the blood in it, we're the life in it? So I really kind of like where this poet is kind of going with using body imagery to kind of help us think about other things. And I'm going to read one other short poem from this. All the poems of the world. Okay. What did you say, Vanessa, when you heard he died?
I cried, and I remembered.
Remembered what?
Eastern sun illuminating our porcelain faces. Dolls handled by children who so easily discarded love.
And when you left that place, what did he say to you?
He asked me to wait for him.
And why didn't you?
After he died, I waited for him, and he came to me in a dream.
What did he tell you?
The travel of ships between lands relies on the heavens and the spirits. We meet at the places between, over the waters. I said to him, what needs to be said?
Before he died, he asked for you.
How long did it take him to die?
About 4 hours. He suffered from a head injury, groaned your name, reached for a comfort too far away.
Where did you bury him?
In the sea, beside his home.
A cemetery of predators. Why would you leave him there?
He waits for you with the waters. He waits for you to sail to him.
Why did it take you so long to find me?
I wanted to leave him dead, but I thought...
Did you think I left him?
I know you did once.
Will I find him again?
His spirit roves our old land.
By the sea.
By the sea. So this is kind of a hard poem, but it's a poem that a lot of people ask me about. So, and it's okay, because we're just fragile trees, and we can be fragile sometimes, and we can be strong sometimes. So, it's okay to shed a tear. I should have said he died in Thailand. Most of you know we were living in Thailand, but he died in Thailand. We lived there at the time. Some of this poem is not true. He did not suffer for 4 hours. He passed away immediately, which we are very thankful for. He was in an accident. So, and we did not bury him in the sea in Thailand. We brought him back, and he's buried here in Hermitage. But the reason I had those, one is I wanted to include Vanessa, like I wanted to have him asking for her, so I kind of changed the truth a little bit. But also, this poem is really about absence of body. And that's the hardest thing about losing someone. You don't see them anymore. Your body, their body is not with you anymore. So I really wanted this poem to feel kind of ethereal. I have the heavens and the spirits, the places between, over the waters. The ocean is really a liminal space. Whether you're flying over it in an airplane or if you go on a cruise, it's really just sort of this place that's in between. And maybe that's kind of where he is, in some kind of spiritual, mysterious way. Kind of a nod to heaven as well. But this was kind of a risky poem for me to do. It was kind of this question and answer, and then it switched, and then the Vanessa character started asking the sister. So it was a hard poem, but the point of it was just to remember my brother, to remember that he was loved, and just to kind of hit that mysterious place that we hope, the heaven we hope he's there, and that we can still remember his spirit and try to live the way he did and kind of put some of that spirit into our own lives. So, okay. I'm going to go to the very last poem in the book, and it'll be more upbeat. So, it's called Luminescence. Inside the body of the world, there lives a vine that awakens in footprints and root prints, that touches our suffering, that heals the broken earth, that intertwines our pulses until our breaths carry a new seed within them. While we sleep, rain saturates the land, and in the morning, a luminescence tunnels through the fog. I want to be the world, freshly washed. So I didn't realize I was kind of giving a nod back to Orr in this, inside the body of the world. But I really, I'm not sure what his body of the beloved is. But when I think about this body of the world that we're in, there's just this longing to be a part of something that's breathing and living and life-giving. And I really like that image of this vine that's like crawling up inside of us, that does touch our suffering, but also heals us, that makes us new, that gives us new breath and a new seed, and kind of gives us something to live for. So I don't know if I really realized it, but I kind of started and ended the poem kind of with that metaphor between nature and the body. I want to, trying to check on time, I don't want to go too long. I want to share, would you guys care if I shared some new things that aren't in the book? Just a couple of poems? Okay. So this still goes with the body theme. I have been writing these poems about penguins, which is weird, but so last winter, in 2015, we had all the snow days that repeated again in 2016, basically. But in 2015, we had a bunch of snow days off school, and on like the 11th snow day or whatever, I was bored and I watched March of the Penguins on Amazon Prime. And I mean, it's like 10 or 11 years old, but I had never seen it. And I was very moved, and I saw a lot of commonalities between penguins and penguin life cycle and humans. So I'm going to share a couple of these penguin poems, try them out on you. They have not been published anywhere. I've been trying, but haven't been accepted anywhere yet, but they're close to my heart. Okay, so the first one is called Falling in Love. A penguin's love looks like a heart. It is the thinness of necks and beaks settling into each other, the silence of heads and bellies touching. This is the most delicate act you will find in a buried land. This act is the whole world rushing beneath their feet. The map of Antarctica printing itself on the inside of their skin, the negative of their silhouettes flashing in closed eyelids. A penguin... Okay, so the first one is called Falling in Love. A penguin's love looks like a heart. It is the thinness of necks and beaks settling into each other, the silence of heads and bellies touching. This is the most delicate act you will find in a buried land. This act is the whole world rushing beneath their feet. The map of Antarctica printing itself on the inside of their skin, the negative of their silhouettes flashing in closed eyelids. A penguin's love holds up the horizon when it's mussed with snow. It lasts the length of a continent and back again, over and over. I cannot prepare you for the gravity you will feel, but I can tell you this. Touch your bellies together and lean your head in. Might be the closest you ever get to love. I really do that. All right, the second one is called Broken Egg. The room drowns in lack of heartbeat. Does the doctor understand how hard it is for me to crumple up that paper gown and throw it away, to slide into my panties and jeans, to look at my stomach, which will remain flat? Across the globe, a penguin couple inspects their egg, which has a splice in its side. A tuft of white feather hangs from the mother's beak, her remnant of failure. The crevice is already swathed in ice. While the mother penguin bleats over her egg, the chill air in the operating room makes my bare back shudder. We will both return to the world with nothing. And the last penguin poem I'm going to read is for my children. So I have had a couple miscarriages, but I also have two beautiful children that I'm thankful for. They're here tonight. The last penguin poem is dedicated to you guys. Okay? It's called Perimeter. When the penguin father releases his chick to the sea, perhaps he remembers the longest night, the moving huddle of penguins, his great body hovering over his egg. The memory of his turn on the perimeter is the ghost of a dream, snow-covered. As her child enters the water, the penguin mother might recall cradling him in the cave of her body, the texture of feather on skin. I birthed you into the world of breath, where you might gasp for your own voice. My body became an ark of bone for you, and you came out grasping for light. I held you beneath star and storm, our skin pulsed with heartbeat. Now your blood beats toward the sea. When the time comes for you to leave, I will stand on the perimeter, and I will watch you fly. All right, can I read one more? And then we'll do questions. Okay, so this one's weird. I'm going to try it out on you guys. So this is still really about body as well. I've been thinking a lot about God in a maternal way, and God, like, we say we're created in the image of God, and maybe could part of that be creativity? Like God created, right? And we have creativity, not just in bringing children into the world, but in other ways, like in ways we contribute to our families or in our workplace or ideas we come up with. So I've been playing with this idea of creativity and kind of like God as a maternal or a motherly, God as mother. So this is a poem called God's Womb, Births the Womb That Births God. So you guys can tell me if it doesn't work, okay? God's womb, flecked with blood, nicked from the shove of exponent, cell multiplied by swell of heartbeat, sweet, leafed among vessel and vein, the womb of God, pain. A trinket wind-up heart marks the start of God's heirs, stardust, skin, and hair, limbs wound with string and song, sing along, breath caught in crosshairs of light. The womb of God, flood, sudden, where body floats, fingers splayed, salt spray-coated, pathways forged in voice, in cry, wonder and wide, grasping for something to find, God's womb, mine. So that's kind of the wrap-up of my talk. Thank you guys for listening. They did kind of want me to talk a little bit about publication. So do you guys have any specific questions about publishing poetry or any questions about anything you'd like to ask me about? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You're good.
Actually, question. Your poem Ash.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a dream by chance, or did you actually have
We didn't actually have a house fire. This actually kind of came from an assignment when I was at Murray State, and I'm trying to think what it was. I know that I can remember my poetry teacher, which I liked him, but he was kind of weird. He was like, I think we had to start with like a really hard emotion, and I kind of started with anger, but then I like fire as anger, but then I think it morphed into something else as I wrote the poem. But I remember him saying, okay, you need to add this line to your poem. A man walks into the room. So that line is in the poem. So I wanted it to be kind of dreamlike. All the books are burning, all my words say blaze, say ash. So I don't know. This was just sort of like everything in the house. What if it gets devoured? So I guess you can kind of see like the angry stuff behind it, like your anger devours things that are meaningful to you.